Okay, let's dive in. We're talking about something you probably don't think about much, but it's absolutely fundamental to, well, everything built around us, ferroalloys.
That's right. And the market for them is surprisingly huge. We're looking at a global value of uh, USD 62.84 billion back in 2025.
62 billion for ferroalloys. So maybe we should quickly clarify what they actually are. They're not just minor additives, are they?
No, not at all. Think of them as essential ingredients. Basically, they're alloys of iron mixed with other elements, things like chromium, manganese, silicon.
Okay.
And these additions are what give steel its specific properties. Like chromium makes it stainless, resistant to rust. Manganese makes it tougher, more durable. They're crucial for performance.
Got it. So they're kind of the secret sauce for steel. And today we're digging into a global market report that lays all this out: projections, regional stuff, industry analysis.
Yep, the goal is to pull out the key insights, understand what's driving this market, and importantly, what it all means for you.
Right. So that $62 billion figure for 2025, where's it headed?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The forecast sees it more than doubling. We're talking USD 124.3 billion by 2033.
Doubling. Wow. What kind of growth rate is that?
That works out to a compound annual growth rate, or CGR, of 8.90%,
Yeah.
which is, pretty robust, very strong growth.
And 8.9% CAGR. That's definitely significant. So what's fueling that? What's the main engine here?
It really boils down to one main thing: global steel production. It's increasing steadily.
Okay. Makes sense. More steel needed.
Exactly. The link is direct. You need more steel for, well, everything. Infrastructure projects, buildings, cars, appliances. As that demand goes up, the demand for the ferroalloys that make that steel strong or stainless or whatever it needs to be goes up right alongside it.
Right. Every new skyscraper, every bridge, even the car you drive, they all need specialized steel, which means they need these alloys.
Precisely. It puts that big number into context.
Okay, so let's break it down geographically. Where's the activity concentrated right now?
Currently, North America is actually leading in terms of revenue share. It held over 40% back in 2025.
40%. That's quite dominant.
It is. That translates to about USD 11.888 billion in market size for 2025. And it's still growing, projected at a 7.1% CAGR. Solid growth.
Okay, so North America is the current leader. What about other big players? Europe.
Europe's also very significant, holds over 30% of the global revenue. Their 2025 market size was around USD 9.55 billion.
Then their growth.
A bit slower than North America, projected at a 6.3% CAGR. Still substantial, though.
So North America and Europe are the heavyweights now, but you mentioned that overall 8.9% growth. That must be coming from somewhere else, mainly.
That's right. The real engine of growth, the fastest expansion, is happening in the Asia-Pacific region.
Ah, okay. What are their numbers looking like?
Well, their 2025 market size was already huge, actually the largest in pure dollar terms, USD 37.70 billion. But the key is a growth rate, projected CAGR of 9.9%.
Wow, almost 10%. What's driving that specifically in Asia Pacific?
It's largely down to rapid industrialization and massive urbanization efforts. Think about the scale of development in countries like China and India.
Right, all that new construction, new manufacturing.
Exactly. It creates enormous demand for steel and, therefore, ferroalloys. It's also worth noting for businesses, this shift could really impact global supply chains and where manufacturing advantages lie.
That's a really important point. Nearly double-digit growth there is bound to reshape things. What about other parts of the world? South America, Middle East, Africa?
They have smaller shares currently, but also show interesting growth potential. South America has over 5% share, about USD 1.38 billion in 2025, and its projected CGR is actually right at the global average, 8.9%.
Okay.
The Middle East is around 2%, that's USD 1.26 billion, but look at its growth projected at 10.5% CAGR.
Higher still.
Yep. And Africa, while holding about 1% share, around USD 1.07 billion, is also projected to grow fast at 10.1% CAGR.
So those developing regions, while smaller markets overall right now, have some of the highest potential growth rates.
Exactly. It really highlights how global development, especially infrastructure needs, is fueling this whole market.
Which brings us neatly back to the key market drivers. You mentioned infrastructure and construction.
Yes, that's a huge one. All these global projects demand high-performance steel, and that means more ferroalloys. Simple as that.
And it's not just buildings and bridges, is it? The automotive sector is big, too.
Definitely. The automotive and transportation industries are major consumers. They need specialty steels, strong, but lightweight, safe, efficient. Those steels rely heavily on specific ferroalloy additives.
So more cars, trains, planes, More ferroalloys needed. It's all connected.
It really is. Think about electric vehicles, too. They often require specific types of steel and other alloys.
Are there other drivers? Maybe on the production side?
Yes, technological advancements in how ferroalloys are actually made are also helping. Innovations are leading to better efficiency, sometimes lower costs. That makes the whole process smoother and supports overall market growth.
So demand is pulling and production tech is pushing in a way.
Kind of, yeah. Makes the market more robust.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there any challenges or restraints mentioned in the report?
Yes, there are definitely headwinds. A big one is the volatility of raw material prices. The cost of things like chromium ore, manganese ore, nickel. It can fluctuate quite a bit.
Right, and that impacts production costs directly.
Exactly. And tied to that are potential supply chain disruptions. We've seen how fragile global supply chains can be, and this industry isn't immune. It creates uncertainty.
Understandable. So volatility in supply chains are restraints. What about major trends shaping the future of the market?
Well, one clear trend is the rising demand for high performance, sort of. Specialty ferroalloys.
Ah, so not just the standard stuff.
Right. We're talking about alloys needed for really advanced manufacturing. Think aerospace, defense applications, even renewable energy components like wind turbines. These need materials with very specific, often extreme, properties.
So the demand is getting more sophisticated in some areas.
Precisely. And linked to that is another huge trend, sustainability. There's a growing push towards more sustainable and energy-efficient ways to produce ferroalloys.
That seems critical given it's an energy-intensive industry.
Absolutely. This includes focusing more on recycling scrap materials and developing new, low-carbon production technologies. It's not just about being green either. This could really change the competitive landscape. Companies leading in sustainable tech might gain an edge.
That makes sense. Consumers and industries are increasingly demanding that. Did the report give any examples of this sustainability push?
Yes, it mentioned Glencore's Rovan facility in South Africa. They process vanadium, and they're building a pretty large solar plant, 25 megawatt.
Okay.
The idea is that this solar plant will provide a big chunk of their energy needs, cutting their carbon footprint significantly. The concrete example of that trend in action.
That's good to see. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The report segments the market by type of ferroalloy. What are the main categories?
Broadly, you can split them into bulk alloys and noble alloys.
Bulk and noble. Okay, what falls under bulk?
Bulk alloys are the high-volume ones. Things like ferromanganese, ferrochromium, ferrosilicon. They're used in large quantities for general steel production.
And I assume they make up the biggest part of the market currently.
Yes, by volume and often by value, bulk alloys dominate because standard steel production is just so massive.
So what are the noble alloys then?
Noble alloys are things like ferromolybdenum, ferronickel, ferrotungsten, ferrovanadium. They're typically added in smaller quantities, but impart very specific high-value properties. Think extreme heat resistance, strength, things like that.
And are they growing faster? You mentioned that specialty trend.
Exactly. Noble alloys are the fastest growing segment. That demand from aerospace, energy, high-tech sectors is driving the need for these more specialized high-performance materials.
Interesting. So bulk is the bedrock, but noble is where a lot of the dynamic growth is. What about applications? Where do all these ferroalloys actually go?
Well, no huge surprise here. Steel manufacturing is overwhelmingly the largest application. It consumes something like over 80% of all ferroalloys produced.
Over 80%. That really drives home how intertwined they are with steel.
Absolutely. They're fundamental to getting the right kind of steel for countless uses.
Are there other significant applications besides just standard steel?
Yes, while steel dominates, there's also very rapid growth in using ferroalloys to make other types of alloys, things often called superalloys or other non-steel alloys.
Superalloys. Where are they used?
Think extreme environments. Aerospace is a big one. Jet engines, for example. Also the energy sector, power generation turbines, chemical processing plants, places needing materials that can handle intense heat, pressure, and corrosion.
Gotcha. So steel is king, but these high-performance superalloys are a fast-growing niche. Okay, we've covered a lot. Size, growth, regions, drivers, trends, types, applications. Who are the actual companies making these ferroalloys? Any key players mentioned?
Yeah, the report lists several major players, names like Glencore, Salmoncore Chrome, Tata Steel, ArcelorMittal. It's a mix.
How so?
Well, you have large integrated steel companies like Tata Steel or ArcelorMittal that also produce ferroalloys, partly for their own use. Then you have more specialized companies like Glencore or Salmoncore that focus heavily on producing and selling ferroalloys on the global market.
Right, so a combination of integrated giants and more focused producers. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. If you had to summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive, what would they be?
I'd say, number one, the sheer size, and importantly, the strong projected growth of this market. It's big and getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that growth is fundamentally tied to steel demand, which itself is driven by global development, infrastructure, automotive, you name it.
Okay.
Three, watch the regional dynamics.
Yeah.
North America and Europe are big now, but Asia-Pacific is the growth powerhouse, and other developing regions show high potential too.
Right, that shift is key.
And finally, the key trends to watch are the move towards more specialized, high-performance, noble alloys, and the really significant push for sustainability and greener production methods throughout the industry.
It really is fascinating how these materials, which most people probably never name, are just so critical. Truly behind the scenes, but essential.
Absolutely. They're in the foundations of our buildings, the frames of our cars, the tools we use, everywhere.
So a final thought for our listeners to chew on. Maybe thinking about that massive growth projected, especially in Asia Pacific. What are the ripples? How might that really change the game for global manufacturing or even infrastructure priorities over the next 10 years?
That's a great question. Or you could think about the sustainability angle. With that pressure growing, what kind of breakthroughs might we see in how we make these crucial materials? Could we see radically different, cleaner production methods emerge? It definitely shows how interconnected things like metallurgy, global economics, and environmental concerns really are.